Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, August 11th. An unsettled weather pattern coming to much of the eastern U.S. for the second half of the week. Beginning really on Wednesday, there'll be an increased chance of showers and thunderstorms in the mid-Atlantic region and really up and down the eastern seaboard, as well as there'll be kind of weak frontal system boundary zones with several different areas of low pressure riding up along that frontal boundary zone in the period from Wednesday through Saturday and even Sunday. Again, each one of those low pressure areas can enhance the chance for some shower and thunderstorm activity. Temperatures will actually trend a little bit downward as we progress through the week. In the I-95 corridor region, for example, from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City, we could easily reach the low to mid-90s today and maybe even tomorrow in some spots, but then by the end of the work week into the early part of the weekend, probably low to mid-80s for afternoon highs. Before we get into more details on the local weather situation in the eastern U.S., let's take a look at the tropical scene. Kind of at an intermission point here in the tropical season, kind of the halfway point, almost to the middle part of August. We've had a very active time period so far, at least in terms of the number of storms. We've had 9 named storms. It's the earliest on record for having 9 named tropical systems, 2 of which became hurricanes. Now, despite the fact that we've had a high number of storms, the total ACE, accumulated cyclone energy, is certainly not at any kind of a record level. In fact, it's at a record low level for having 9 named storms. And the accumulated cyclone energy is kind of a measure of the longevity of a tropical system and the intensity or magnitude of a tropical system. So it's really a better way to judge the overall tropical activity, in this case in the Atlantic Basin. Again, we have had, as compared with just counting the number of storms, we've had a record number of storms, but the ACE is certainly not at a record level. It's certainly not for having 9 named systems. We do have a system right now in the tropical Atlantic, right here, located on this particular area with the National Hurricane Center's latest map, has a very good chance of becoming the 10th named tropical system, and in this case it would be Josephine. It does look like it'll continue on a west to northwest track, and after that there are signs that there could be less favorable atmospheric conditions for intensification. So even though it has a very good chance of becoming Josephine, the 10th named tropical system, its longer term prospects are definitely iffy at best when it gets out into this region, and of course we'll continue to monitor this closely. Again, we're kind of at the halfway point of the tropical season, and climatologically speaking, it becomes more and more active, generally reaching a peak around the middle part of September in the Atlantic Basin. And the ACE index, the accumulated cyclone energy, has been rather low, given the fact that we've had 9 named storms. That's primarily due to the fact that many of these storms have been short-lived and have not reached hurricane level, but chances are there'll be stronger storms as we get into the second half of the season. The sea surface temperatures are getting warmer and warmer, and they generally reach a peak early middle part of September. And here's the latest visible satellite imagery view of this tropical wave in the central part of the Atlantic. And again, it looks better organized this morning as compared with yesterday morning, a rather symmetrical look to it, and it has a very good chance, I believe, of becoming a named system. Again, in this case, it will be Josephine, which would be a lot easier to pronounce than Isaias, the last tropical system that did briefly become a hurricane and then, of course, roared up the East Coast as a tropical storm. But again, this is out in the central Atlantic, has a decent chance of becoming tropical storm Josephine. Again, its longer-term prospects are somewhat more iffy, however, and let's hope for the best that it does die off before it ever has a chance to reach the eastern seaboard. Well, here's an interesting table showing some statistics of the tropical season so far, not only in the Atlantic Basin, but in the Pacific and the Indian Ocean as well. We have the northern hemisphere showing up here. The important thing I want to point out is the accumulated cyclone energy. That's what we talked about. Again, it's a measure of both the longevity and the magnitude of each given storm. And notice here, first of all, in the North Atlantic, we have had 9 named systems, which again is the earliest ever to record 9. You can see the climatology showing up on this particular table within the parentheses, so far above the normal for this time of the year. And the ACE is above normal as well, right here, 23 as compared to the normal 10.7 for this time of the year. But again, given the fact that we've had 9 storms, that is not only relatively low, but I'm pretty sure it's a record low for having had 9 named storms. But the interesting thing also I want to point out is, you look at the northern hemisphere as a whole, taking into account the Pacific Ocean and the North Indian Ocean, we're actually below normal for the ACE, and that's because the Pacific Ocean has had below normal activity. Here in the northeast Pacific, the ACE is below the normal 52.7, and in the northwestern Pacific, look at this, far below normal. So while the Atlantic Ocean has been above normal, both in terms of ACE and number of named storms, the Pacific Ocean has been below, and overall for the northern hemisphere as a whole, as we approach the middle of August, below normal in terms of the accumulated cyclone energy. We'll continue to monitor that over the next several weeks. Well, let's take a look at surface forecast maps for the continental U.S. from last night's operational run of the GFS at 6C. Again, quite an unsettled weather pattern shaping up for the remainder of the week going into the weekend for much of the eastern half of the nation. We have basically a weak frontal system that kind of drops in from the northwest to the southeast by tomorrow into the mid-Atlantic region, and then it'll stall out, allowing for weak areas of low pressure to ride up along that frontal boundary zone. Maybe an isolated shower or thunderstorm later today into tonight, but you can see by the time we get into Wednesday morning, we'll see here in a moment, it becomes a little bit more organized, a little bit more widespread. I think, again, there can be an isolated shower or thunderstorm later today, and certainly again tonight in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. A better chance of showers and thunderstorms on Wednesday, and that increased chance of rain will continue on Thursday and Friday, probably right through the upcoming weekend as well. You see here generally afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms reappearing here on the GFS model run. This is the afternoon of Thursday going into Friday now. Same sort of pattern here with an increased chance of showers and thunderstorms, especially during the afternoon and evening hours. And no doubt some of the rain that falls over the next several days can be heavy at times. Any shower or thunderstorm can produce some heavy rainfall. And I say that because the atmosphere is extremely moist. A lot of available moisture for any of these storms that do develop. This is the forecast map for Friday afternoon. Here's one of those low pressure areas riding up along the frontal boundary zone. Again, it looks like right into the upcoming weekend. Here's Saturday morning forecast map. Again, low pressure in the Ohio Valley, in the Mid-Atlantic region, enhancing the threat of showers and thunderstorms. And it looks like it continues right into Sunday. Still some low pressure over the Ohio Valley, even one moving off the coast. High pressure at this time builds across northeastern part of the U.S., southeastern part of Canada. This particular high pressure area to the north will generally result in a downward trend in temperatures for the northeast U.S., for the mid-Atlantic region over the next several days. While we may hit the lower to perhaps even the middle 90s today in the urban areas of the I-95 corridor, by Friday and Saturday it looks like we'll go all the way down into maybe the lower 80s for afternoon highs, thanks in large part to this high pressure system building up to the north, and that cooler weather will continue into the weekend as well, but unsettled with a daily shot at showers and thunderstorms. So kind of the halfway point of the tropical season, certainly more activity in store. We do have a system right now in the central Atlantic that looks like it'll become a named system, and that would be the 10th storm of the season named Josephine. Unsettled weather pattern for much of the eastern U.S., especially from Wednesday into the upcoming weekend. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.